Okay, it looks good. I think you guys, I was super nervous that nobody was going to show up. The panelists, we've all been sitting here for a few minutes kind of talking, and I said, do we need more than us to be able to run this? So I'm thrilled to see that so many of you have shown up. You all have seen the flyer and who we have here, our esteemed guests. I'm not going to talk so much about them because I actually made a little video. I pulled various clips of all of these amazing people off of the internet and edited it together. So it will just show their name and what they do, and then a quick little video of what they do. It's about 6 minutes long. So let's sit through that, and then we will start talking. So here comes the video. I'm going to share my screen. This and this. And okay, here we go.
Today we were working on Robeson by Adolphus Hailstork.
Good morning, Sister Mary. Good morning, Brother John.
If everyone actually knew about Robeson, they would just be floored.
Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. But the St. Louis blues, just as blue as I can be.
So we have our little girl, and she's obviously a painter. She's in her room. She's in this bedroom is Van Gogh's bedroom at Arles. One day, Dad opened the door, and out went Wilhelmina, running after a squirrel. Wilhelmina will miss you, and she will come back, said Dad. She'll be right here, said Papa, after your nap. Now we see on this page, the little girl has finished her painting, and it's Monk's The Scream. And over on this left-hand side of the page, we see Rembrandt's Sea of Galilee, which is a very dark and tumultuous painting. So we see that over her head. So we know that she's very nervous and worried.
It's important to make everything sound natural. You don't want to have to think about the sound. We have to be transparent. I'm Karen Ford. I'm sound engineer. Mixing the show sometimes is it's almost like playing an instrument. You manipulate all the aspects of the sound to come together in a way to affect the feel of the show. You can mix the show in a way to make people feel a certain way, and you can certainly affect their mood, and you can help them feel excited if you mix the show properly. In order to help tell the story, you can effectively control the level of the entire orchestra as well as the actors on stage.
I can tell by the sound of your voice if you're really in love with me. You are, yes you are.
When I'm from the hats, studying the hats, entering the world of the hats, reaching through the world of the hat like a window, back to this one from that, studying our face, stepping back to look at
with love. Take it away, away. Take it away. Take it away.
That's the time you miss her most of all.
All right, kids, let's have some fun.
Now, Sheriff, I'm sure if we work together, we could reach a mutually beneficial solution to our current situation.
You better take it up with him.
Charlie, make me fly again.
Get ready to run!
Our ships! Fire, Optimus!
Amazing, right? Oh my God.
Good job, Charles. Good job, Charles.
I'm actually like, let's just take a collective moment. I mean, I know everybody here, but everybody that we can't see, and have a moment for the arts, for like beautiful artists and creative people of all kinds. It's amazing who we have here. I'm so excited. So let's just jump right in. Now you kind of know who we're dealing with here, and we're dealing with some serious, amazing individuals. So the first question, you guys can all be ready for this, is just maybe tell the students about your job. Like, what do you consider yourself? Like, if you're at a party and you introduce yourself, what are you? And maybe what is that like? What is it like to be an animator, or just, you know, a little bit about your job? Anybody want to go firsties?
I'll go first, just in case.
All right, Kevin. Oh, and I have to tell everybody, Kevin, before you start, Kevin, what year did you graduate from Tuckahoe High School?
I graduated in 1972.
Oh my goodness, that's so amazing.
I am the oldest one here. But I am so excited that all of these people are from Tuckahoe High School. Boy, oh boy. And some of you I need to hire. That's for sure. But shall I go, Charles?
Yes, please.
Are you ready? Okay. I'm an international opera singer, and I have sung with all of the major opera companies in the United States and many overseas. I currently run an opera company called Trilogy, an opera company in the city of Newark. Now, I have been performing, oh boy, for some 40 some odd years, a little more than that. And I am a bass, and oh, well, some of you I come in contact with, like I'm looking here at this violinist. I need a good violinist next weekend. And I'm looking at a lot of things. I'm always thinking about how I can collaborate. But it's so great to see all of these people from Tuckahoe High School. I think most of you know what an opera singer is. I sing in 7 languages, and I speak all of those languages that's required. I don't know what else to tell you. I've sung the music of Wagner and Verdi and Mozart and Donizetti and Rossini and Glinka and all of these people, Swanson. And my opera company, however, focuses on the works of Black composers. And we are quite the talk right now. We just received a National Endowment for the Arts grant, our first one. And it's a very great honor for us, because we know what it is that we're actually focusing on. And we do that for very good reason. I don't know what else to tell you, Charles.
Well, that's amazing. Right? We'll keep moving around and we'll get back to you. Why don't we, you guys can exchange numbers later, but why don't we go with Sylvia, the violinist?
Hey, peeps. So I'm a professional violinist living in New York City, and I've had a 30-year career. And mostly I would say that I'm a Broadway concertmaster. So I don't know if you know what a concertmaster is. It's a leader. It's the conductor's right hand man, woman, person. And I've played, gosh, my first show was Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. And my last show, which never got even to start the previews, was Flying Over Sunset at Lincoln Center Theater. Hopefully that will happen in the fall. Who knows? So I've done what?
That was written by that
Tom
show.
Kitt,
Who wrote Freaky Friday.
Freaky Friday. So I've also just not only Broadway, had a lively freelance career in New York playing jingles. I'm sure you've heard me on commercials and sessions, and played concerts at Lincoln Center, played in American Ballet Theater, but I've also toured the world with some very famous artists and wonderful artists. Barbara Streisand. I've been in an all-girls string quartet for Rod Stewart. That was 10 Weeks of Mayhem. And I also have toured extensively with Harry Connick Jr. and a wonderful jazz singer named Madeline Peru, where I actually contracted the players from everywhere. I've gotten to know lots of musicians. And so that's been fascinating, going all over the world and meeting people all over the world. And it's been a wonderful career. That's awesome. In a nutshell. Thank you.
All right, let's mix it up a little bit and go visual for a minute. And Joe, how about you?
I am Joe Belial, and I am a children's book author and illustrator. When I was in high school, I always got in trouble because I was doodling all the time and I was constantly drawing and drawing. It was always an outlet for me. I actually work, I run an LGBTQ teen group for a program called Kids in Crisis. And that's what I actually do for a living. And my book and my illustrations was always a project on the side. I'm always a painter and an artist. So I did this book, and it took me really 5 years to do it. I knew I had a cool story to tell. And I use art history to tell my story. I use it kind of in a unique way. So there's paintings over the little girl's head, and it sort of informs her emotional state. So like in the family's living room, if you read the book, you'll see, there's Rodin's The Thinker in the book. So I kind of use art and art history in fun, different, unique ways. And this was a story that I wanted to do for a long, long time. And I worked on it and rewrote it and redid it and hired a consultant to help me. And I shopped it around and finally got a publisher and who helped me, really bring this dream come true. So if you love art and like to illustrate, I highly suggest, doing a kid's book one day. It's really fun. I also teach art. I teach after school programs. I teach art. And I would constantly run my story past kids to make sure that it resonated with them. And, lo and behold, out came my book. I found a publisher and I found an audience, and I'm just thrilled to be sharing it with you. So I hope you'll all read it. And then full circle for me, half the profits of my book, which is called What If Wilhelmina, go to the organization that I work for, which is called Kids in Crisis. So this book supports the nonprofit that I work for called Kids in Crisis. So thank you for your time.
That's so awesome, Joe. And there's a common theme of art helping people, not only entertaining people, but also helping.
That's right.
Why don't I jump across we have Ms. Karen Ford on the technical side of being creative.
Hi, everybody, and thank you, Charles, for asking me to be part of this amazing panel. There's some serious people up here. I am a sound engineer, and I have been doing this for over 30 years. I started out actually touring, which is how Charles and I met. We did the third national tour of Les Miserables. So that was one of the first tours that I ever did. Started out as the second assistant sound engineer on that show. Yeah, I've been doing this, toured for on and off for about 11 years. And then my first show on Broadway was Ragtime. And I went into that show as the sound effects operator, basically. And occasionally I would mix the show, but that's what I did. And from that point on, and it was the original company of Ragtime back in, 98, I think. But after that show, the next show I did was called Suzico, and that was my first time mixing as the head sound engineer. And that is what I do. That's what I've been doing since then. The very first show I did was Search for Signs of Intelligent Life in the Universe, which starred Lily Tomlin. And that show, I got that show right out of school. Like I left Juilliard, and a month later I was doing her tour. Had no experience, but Lily gave me the chance to do it. And I thought, well, if she doesn't like me, she can fire me. But I ended up working for her for 2 years until the show ended and I did her film. And then the last show I did was, before the whole COVID thing, was Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? And we were in previews, and we hadn't even opened yet. And so that show closed. So, so most of my career has been in theater, mostly musical theater. In fact, Virginia Woolf was the first straight play that I've mixed ever the whole time I've been on Broadway. So I do mostly musicals. I've done, just to name some of them, like I said, the Les Mis tour I did after Ragtime was Seussical, and then I did the original company of The Color Purple. I did Bette Midler's Hello, Dolly, and that was a hoot. Bette is something else. She was fantastic to work with. And a show called Shuffle Along, which was fantastic. It had a short run, but it was an amazing show, in American in Paris. So those are some of the shows that I've done. Recently, during the shutdown, obviously I couldn't mix any live theater. So I've done some sound design for high school. What's the name of that high school? Berkeley Carroll in Brooklyn. They did a couple of musicals, and I did their sound design for that. So I was able to work from home on my little 13-inch laptop computer. And then most recently, I edited and mixed a filmed version of The Last 5 Years, which is now streaming. And it got a nice little review in the Times. So I'm kind of like shifting gears and learning how to do some editing and that kind of thing for film. And, who knows, that may be another good transition for me, but that's my job.
Fantastic. All right, how about Natalie?
Hi. Wow, okay. My name is Natalie Lamont, and I think if I were to meet someone in a party these days, short answer, I would say I'm a choreographer. But I find the more experience I get in this world, that that label is quite vague and doesn't really lead you in specific directions. I think more accurately, when I think about it, I consider myself a storyteller, a creator, and a performer. And that little umbrella a little bit more accurately encompasses all the different directions I can go. I started my career, I moved to New York from Texas in 1999. And around 2001 or 2002, I started my performing career. The first decade was basically touring around the world with different dance companies such as Momix, Pilobolus, Parsons. and doing other things, some commercial work in Japan. I did a television show in Italy. It was kind of like their Big Brother meets American Idol meets So You Think You Can Dance all in one. And every Sunday it was like their most popular family entertainment show every Sunday. So I went with a choreographer named Daniel Ezerlo, who was the big star choreographer who brought an American dance company there. We created dances around each of the singers who were competing in that competition. We would meet in a studio every day for 8 hours. They would give us a CD full of tracks. We would have to make as many dances as we could, so 1 or 2 per day. By Thursday, we had to show up in the live studio, perform everything that we had slapped together that week. And based on the singer's attempt of getting through typically American music, and they were all Italian speaking people. So that was interesting. Plus, compared to what we had managed to slap together, between Thursday and Friday, they would create their Sunday show. And we would show up on Sunday with all these different looks and costumes, and we'd be in the back ready to go, and someone would come and be like, okay, you're doing this one next, and we'd have about 2 minutes to get on. So that was a really interesting 3-month television gig in Italy, where I got to both create work with my colleagues but also perform. Most of my performing career perhaps didn't go the way I would have prescribed it for myself. There were a lot of things that I still would love to have done or do that maybe I didn't get the chance to do yet. But one thing that my performance career gave me was the opportunity to create, to collaborate and create work. From the first dance company I ever worked with, even when I was in a company based in New York called Parsons Dance, the one and only time they ever created an evening link work was the year that I was in the company. So I helped create that. And it wasn't until I sort of made it through this portion of my dance career, got a little more into television. I got to dance with Liza Minnelli in Sex and the City 2. Not only that, I got to do a rendition of Beyonce's Single Ladies performed by Liza Minnelli, and I got to be one of the backup dancers. So that's multiple levels of awesome right there. And then by the time I landed in Spider-Man on Broadway, which is where I met the incomparable Charles DuChateau, it dawned on me that I even sitting in that show, I realized, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, I never would have imagined that I would have wanted to go in all of those directions. At first, I saw myself as this concert dancer, and I thought there had to be something serious about it in order for it to be profound. And I would say through my career of creativity, that's one of the myths that I've busted for myself, and that's something I'd like to share with any person, especially young artists, that we all have this creative energy within us, and it's fueled by fun and curiosity, not necessarily all the rules and regulations that we sometimes have to live by, right, in order to function with others. But that's something that I realized once I started about 10 years ago, changing lanes and becoming more of a choreographer first. And it's something that I'm continuing to realize is very important, to realize that it's my job to be curious, it's my job to imagine, and it's my job to have fun. Because as a storyteller, a creator of dance, a singer, what have you, if I'm not sort of available and open to be giving that what is creative energy, life energy through whatever I'm doing, then maybe I'm not really doing my job to the fullest. That's something that I'm clarifying for myself, even right now, as this past year has been so different for all of us. And I've definitely turned more toward the teaching online, which is new, teaching dance and also teaching meditation. And so I've been given the opportunity to sort of get more into the groundwork, clarity for myself of what am I doing, what am I wanting to do, and why.
Amazing. Awesome. And finally, everybody's, the teenage boys especially, have been waiting to hear from the guy who's worked on the Transformers movies. So Jason.
I'm sorry to disappoint, but thank you for inviting me, Charles. I'm very honored to be in the league of like all these amazing people who are presenting today. Sorry to disappoint again. I am just an animator. I'm not much. I'm like a overglorified puppeteer. What else? So I came to America in 2010. Previously, I am from Singapore, and I was working on the Star Wars Clone Wars TV series that was shown on Nickelodeon in the US, I think. And after that, I got a chance to work on Rango after I moved to the States with Industrial Light and Magic. Beyond that, Transformers. After Transformers, my friend actually pulled me over to New York to Blue Sky Studios to work on Ice Age 4 Collision Course. And I've been there ever since. It's been about 9.5 years at Blue Sky Studios. Sadly, Ice Age, no, not Ice Age, but the studio has kind of moved on from now on. It's closed down recently. But I have found a new place at Epic Games. I'm trying something new right now. So gonna work on Fortnite. So more teenage kids would know who I am.
So when you're doing that kind of work to a total, layman, non-visual artist person, are you, how much of it is, well, what is your training in terms of, how much of it is hand, how much of it, obviously it's computer, but can you give a layman explanation?
So drawing is very important because everything ends up being on the screen. It goes back to 2D in the end, although the medium that we're working on is 3D, but if it's on the screen, it's 2D because you're seeing it on a two-dimensional plane. So knowing visual arts, understanding what looks good on paper is very, very important. After you're good on paper, then you have to start understanding like, okay, so nowadays things are projected in 3D and stuff like that. You have to start thinking, especially in games as well. Eventually, when people are like toggling and moving around the character itself, the character has to look good on all angles, right? So you have to, it's shifting your mind, but most importantly, just be really good at observing, learning what the skills for drawing and 2D aesthetics and how to make things look good on screen, basically.
Wow.
Yeah.
You've got some big fans in the chat there, I'm noticing.
Oh, thank you.
So I'll move into, I had two questions, but I think what I might do is sort of roll it up into one. And I want to be, we have an hour allotted for this. I'm sure we could spend hours and hours just talking, but what I might ask is, and actually, I'll go back to Kevin again, because I know our mutual friend who introduced me to you, Kevin, has told me about your, being here in high school and that you were maybe a trombone player, I believe, and the band director spotted you, that you could also sing. So I guess the thing that I might ask of each of you, and let's try and make it, we'll see if we can make it quick, because I also would like to leave some time if kids want to ask questions. But what were you thinking in high school? Were you thinking you were going to be an animator, a violinist, an opera star? Were you dreaming of things like that? And, maybe a super, a quick sort of how you got to what you're doing. And if you were to give yourself any advice to your high school self, what might that be? I know that's a lot to make it quick, but given that we have short time, so maybe just a little bit from each of you on that, and then we'll hope to get some time for some questions. So Kevin.
Well, yes, I think it's very important to listen to your advisors. Now, a very famous agent told me this one time. We were on our way over to for an audition at Met, and when we finished, I remember him. The first thing he said to me, he's dead now. First thing he said to me though was, "Kevin, be sure to listen to your advisor." Now, I went home and I thought about that, and I'm like, listen to my advisors. And then I realized he was right. You don't have to do what your advisors say, but listen to them. And then you must discern what is good for you and what is not. And then you can ask other people, or you can tell other people what your advisors have said. But it is important to listen to your advisors. And I started listening to my advisors a little later on, around that time when he told me that. But I wish, but I guess I did really, actually, because when Mr. Kowalski came to me and said he wanted me to sing for the president of the Manhattan School of Music, I didn't say no. I mean, nope. I was thinking that, okay, that's what I was thinking. And then some things happened in France when I was on a tour with the college chorale, and that just changed my whole life around. And it's basically when other people tell you to do things or they say things about you, listen. You might write them down and then think about them and consider them. And that's what I call listening to your advisors. Okay, Charles?
That sounds great. Let's keep the order. Syl, how about you?
So I guess this is all going to be based on, I started out at 8 years old and as a classically trained violinist. And, I think that, through it's a lot of practice and a lot of hard work. And then I ended up learning a lot of different styles once I got interested in other music. And I think that's really important today. You can't just be one thing. You got to be a lot of different things. You got to learn how to play all different styles. And that leads me up to my advice. You really have to learn your craft. You have to be able to play anything. And that is through practice. Learn the basics, polish your craft. And then, you have to learn all the different styles, country, rock, learn how to improvise. I think it's really, really important. And the second thing is networking. In the beginning, you don't ever turn down a gig because you never know who's going to be there and you never know who's going to be listening. And networking is a big part of meeting musicians, playing with other musicians and everything. And that's really important. And I think that the last thing, and if I would be so bold to say that, is your attitude. You just, even if the music, you don't like it, it's crap. You don't like it or respect it, just play it perfectly, beautifully, and artistically, and you're going to raise the bar of everything. And, you'll make an impression. And that's what I want to say. Learn your craft.
Excellent. Thank you. And Joe.
Excellent advice, Sylvia. So I started out, I went to Syracuse University after high school, and I got a degree in advertising design. And I actually worked in New York at ad agencies for years. And then really kind of got, my inner advisor, Kevin, was telling me to get out of the industry. It wasn't, I didn't really, I wasn't enjoying it after 7-8 years. And what I really wanted to do was paint. And so I, took a leap and I painted, and I supported myself for a number of years. I did big murals and like crazy kids rooms. I actually have done a lot of work in Tuckahoe and Bronxville, and doing all kinds of crazy all kinds of, I did gyms and restaurants and all kinds of stuff. I did that for years. And then I always wanted to do a children's book. It was just on my bucket list of things to do. And I had started, I was volunteering for this Kids in Crisis, this organization. And then that turned into a job for me, which I didn't expect. And then so I was able to do that part-time. And then it was perfect because then I was able to really focus on my book. So I was able to really take, so I would split my days and I would work for the nonprofit that I got the job for, the Kids in Crisis. And then I was really able to hone in on my art. And I knew that I had a cool story to tell and that I could, I had skills and I could bring those skills, my illustration and storytelling skills. But illustrating the book was easy. It took a long time. It took me like a year to do it. But it was easy compared to telling a story that resonated with children, right? So that's hard. So if any of you have young kids in your life, if you have a young cousin, if you have, and you tell stories to them and you enjoy that, I always did. We have a young daughter and I have a bunch of nieces and nephews, and I always loved reading books with them. And I always wanted to tell my own story. So really that's how it began. So through my career, I've taken a lot of different turns with my creativity. I've always, kept a hand in the visual arts, but that's really how my book was born. So it was sort of a curvy route. One of these days I'll grow up and I'll decide what I'm going to do.
Don't do it. It's overrated. Karen.
Yeah, Sylvia said a lot right there, but one of the most important things, as she said, is to learn your craft. And that applies to audio engineering as well. I actually started off as a music major in college. I went to St. Olaf College and was really interested in music. And I took a theory class. I'm like, nope, I don't want to do it. I'm not interested. I'm too lazy. But I did play in band, and I've always been interested in music. And I learned about audio engineering from just listening to records, and my father exposed me to jazz a lot. So I really loved folks like Quincy Jones. And then when I found out that Quincy Jones produced Michael Jackson, and I would sit in my room and play drums all day, because I played drums, I played saxophone, I played bass clarinet. But when I really learned about audio engineering, I decided to go ahead and, go to school for that. And one thing about audio engineering is that you never stop learning. Things always change. From the time I started, where everything was analog to now almost everything is digital. But it's very important to learn every aspect of your craft. And just be ready to do, like Sylvia said, ready to do anything. When you're first starting out, just take whatever comes. And just be willing to learn. This is what I did. I took jobs that hardly paid anything, but you better believe that I learned a lot. I learned how to put a system together, how to patch a rack of equipment. And then eventually, when I went out with Lily Tomlin on the Lily Tomlin tour, learned how to mix a show. But if I didn't understand anything, you better believe I was someplace studying it later. So that's important. Learn your craft. And then when you do get a job and you get paid well, respect the people that you work with. I see so many young people come in today. Now they can take classes in sound design and mixing and all that kind of stuff, and they come in and do a show, and they think they know more than the guys that have been there for 20, 30 years. And it's like, you may have learned some of the latest technology that's going on, but you better believe these guys have been working for 20 years, know how to get around a theater. They know how to put a system together. And it's just important to respect those folks that have come before you. And just know that, you may know some things that they don't, but they know a whole lot more than you when it comes to just dealing with people. So, and it's important to listen to people. As a mixer on Broadway, I have to deal with, you know, the entire cast, not only the cast, but with the orchestra. So I have to, one good thing about me playing an instrument is that I know how to read music. I can speak to the musicians, you know, in a way that, you know, intelligently, that kind of makes sense, you know. I can read the score. So if I'm confused about what's going on in a piece of music, I can always ask the MD, or even go directly to some of the musicians and say, hey, I'm trying to help the singer sing this part. I mean, you know, support them in this part. Are you playing this, blah, 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 or did it get changed? Because that can happen too in a new show. So, but yeah, it's, the important thing is pay attention, know your craft, pay attention to what other people are doing around you, and respect people. That would be my advice.
Amen. Absolutely. And how about Natalie, please?
Okay, you might hear a little dog barking in the other room, so I apologize for that. Yes, I'm thankful to be here listening to everyone's advice as well, because the biggest thing is that it's so true. You never stop learning. Hold on one second.
Here, while she does that, how about Jason?
Right. Everyone else has been giving like amazing advice, and I would like to add on to that, saying that knowing what you want is very important in the beginning, and try to, whatever career choice or whatever like side jobs you take or whatever things that you want to learn, make sure it's going towards the direction that you want to go eventually. Let's say you want to become an animator, go on the web, go and read up on what you want to, how you become a good animator. And of course, networking, the more high echelons of the field you become, the less people there are, and everyone starts knowing each other. So once you start having a bad name for yourself, it really passes around very quickly. So just be nice to everybody, respect everybody, and learn from whatever your seniors teach you, because it's really, really important. They're all trying to help you because they've made all those mistakes before.
This is true. Hey, so Natalie, I'll pivot back to you, but I'm going to sort of pepper in. There have been a couple of questions that, actually from both of the leads of our musical, and actually a couple other of the performers. But one thing is, what and this, I'll start with you, Natalie, but like perhaps in high school you were interested in dance, but also something else. Like there was a question about, I could go in a million different directions. Do you have any advice as to how to decide that? And also, you know, another student is also considering, you know, wanting to also be able to pay the bills, right? That you like, yes, you want to be a Broadway star, but you also know it's a hard thing to do. And do you set your goals on the top thing? Or do you also think like, well, I better make sure that I'm going to be able to survive? And I'd actually be curious to hear from everybody a little bit, but I'll start with Natalie.
Okay. So what was the first part of that question again?
Well, just like how to decide, you know, if for somebody who might want to go in many different directions.
Well, for me, you know, my mother likes to say that I began dancing in the womb. She was a dance teacher, and she used to play the records in her tap classes, and each time she would play the music, I would move around in there, and she would stop it and I would stop. She claims that, you know, we were playing together in that way before I was even born. And then I grew up in my little crib in the corner of the dance studio until I started dancing at 2, until I started teaching others at 14 and choreographing, and then ultimately moving to New York and starting my career. So I am a case where I was hyper-focused from the time I popped out of the womb in regards to dance. And there were times, like I remember when I was 8 years old, I had a moment where I was like, wait a minute, is there something else I want to do? And then by the next day I had resigned myself. No, in fact, this is the direction I'm going. And it just sort of happened that way. But what I will say is that wrongly, I did think all those years that I could only do one thing. I thought if I'm going to be the best dancer, then I can't also be an actor and a singer and all these other things. And that's something that I'm learning very late in my career. Oh, in fact, it wasn't until I got to Spider-Man that I realized how dancing and acting and the inherent storytelling in these things are at their core the same thing, and they can be expressed in all these different ways. I feel the same way about animation when mixed with live performance, about musicians, about the sound design. You know, choreography is very similar to sound mixing in that you're here to create the feeling, the vibration of this world, and you want it to be transparent. You don't want the seams to be so evident, and really sort of finding how not only respect and listen to your advisors, your collaborators, but really recognize how the collaboration and the coexisting of all these things actually come together to tell the story. It's not just one part of the creative group doing it all.
I love that. And actually, does anybody want to grab this? Given that everybody here is a storyteller in some way, we have a storyteller student in our midst, a hopeful screenwriter, film director. Just in anybody that you've worked with or anything, her question is, what is your process when you're telling a story from scratch? I'd be curious if, everybody here has worked with amazing storytellers. Anybody want to jump at a young burgeoning person? Like, what's how to find a good story to tell?
I'll jump in real quick. So, when I wrote this book, it was based on a true story of something that happened to my family. My husband and I have a little girl, and at the time she was 7, and our animal ran away. And it was 3 long days, right, that this animal was gone. And it was horrible. And, through the whole time I was thinking, and my daughter was thinking, like, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if? And that's how the story was born. So the story was born through worry and through, and so really the book is about sort of the futility and sort of silliness of worrying. Like, it wasn't really helping. It wasn't helping us get our animal back. It was just, we were just worrying. And there's a lot of, interesting but the story is based on our truth. It was based on our truth. And I knew that I wanted to tell the story and I could draw it. So that's really how it started. I mean, if you're going to tell a story, base it on, something about you or your family or something that interests you. Use your truth and write about it.
I love that, Joe. Other stories, Jason, you have a million people, maybe not a million, but many people saying Clone Wars is their favorite thing ever. And they want to, there are things like, what was it like to work on it? What was your favorite character? So I will be skewered by these guys if we don't get a little bit of inside dirt on the Clone Wars from them.
Right, before that, let me just continue on to what the story telling part is. It's like, first things first, there's many good stories out there. And if you're starting out, I would suggest finding a person that you respect a lot that tells good stories. If you don't know them in person, you might be able to email them, try to find their contact, send it out, try to get as much not positive, but as much constructive feedback as possible from people you respect and hope to improve from. And that way, I think you will kind of find out what works for yourself, and you can eventually push up your skill. In terms of I wanted to point out that what Kevin and a lot of people, Natalie has said as well, is like this art industry is not just a one person thing, it's a collaborative thing. So you have to work with everyone and like, don't be too precious about your own work, because you only get better if you learn from other people. And yeah, and the attitude all comes with that as well. It's just being opening up yourself to other people and be willing to share with other people as well. On terms, and going back to Clone Wars, that's basically the case, right? Because it's not just one person's visual or one person's story. It's actually a collaboration between a team of artists to make this whole thing work, right? How do we do episodes? Basically, Dave Filoni, which is the supervising director, he has the main idea of the story. He has a team of episodic directors that help him, right? Even the episodic directors have a team of story artists, which help them come up with visuals for the story to tell the episodes themselves. So it's a whole pipeline of different teams of people working together to make what comes up on the screen that you see in the end. So I can't take credit for any of the work that for the animation that I did, which is a small part, right? But the overall picture is everyone's work. It's like a few hundred people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, so we're nearing 2 p.m. I know we could go forever. I mean, the one thing that I would say, and I think everybody here has clearly demonstrated, and I have also noticed that it looks like everybody has been putting their contact info in the chat. I mean, I think one thing, I might just ask for a little closing from each of you, but I think one thing that's clear is, talking to people and reaching out to people. And obviously, like you see, everybody here is kind of amazing. Is not kind of amazing, is amazing. And would be happy to receive an email or a text from you saying, hey, I'm thinking about this. Do you have any thoughts? And like Jason was just saying, think of people in your life that you might want to write, whoever it is that you respect, because you never know who might actually just write you back and say, hey, you know what? I have an internship. Why don't you apply for it? So I think, I don't know, I'm seeing a million questions and I don't know that we can get to them all. So I will apologize to everybody who made questions and we didn't get to them, but I think the best thing to do is maybe we'll just go around in the order we were, and we will start with the esteemed Kevin, and maybe just with a little wrap up closing thought from each of you. Well, Kev, you're still muted. There we go.
Yeah, I realize that it is very important to answer the questions of our young people. And so I encourage you, Charles, to send me the questions after they go home and think about what it is they want to ask. All
Absolutely.
Right? But problem solving is the name of the game. Problem solving. And I think it's important for us to look at what it is that we do, and do we make things better? And do we learn to work together and to respect one another? But more importantly, I think it is important to problem solve. I think an artist that is not thinking in that direction or not moving in that direction is actually wasting time. And I'm not saying that this is something that is exclusively applied to this period of time, which so much turmoil presents itself. I mean this very much so from the bottom of my heart. I never approached a role thinking about it on the stage where I could not figure out how I can use this role, no matter if it was written in the 17 or 1800s, how I could use it and apply it to today's need. In every regard, it's very important to think about how we contribute and how we bring people closer to one another. And so I am open to hearing from anyone, Charles. And so you have my email. They can write to me about whatever they want to write about, and I will respond. I promise you that.
You were
They just have to
inspired,
put
man.
on the email CHS.
All right. Thank you, Kevin. Sylvia.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say, for all the people that were writing questions about how do you get a gig? How do you do that? Don't worry about that right now. You need to find a really good teacher and you need to listen to them. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to go to a music conservatory. You can go to regular college. I have plenty of friends who are my colleagues now who got a liberal arts education. And, don't worry so much about the future right now. Just dive in and become immersed and make it your passion. These things will follow later. They really will.
Awesome. Joe.
Sylvia, I totally echo your comments. Yeah. Get a college degree. It'll really open up doors for you, and study. It's not important what you really study. It's important that you make the contacts and get through it, and then follow your gut. Follow your gut instincts are important. Listen to them, and then reach out to people who you respect, who you think are experts, and consult with them. And you'll find your way. You'll mold those two things together and build a life for yourself.
Love it. Karen.
Yes, Joe, exactly. I echo both of you and Sylvia. Same thing. Just follow your heart, follow what you know you want to do, and trust it. So many people hear negative things from other people, and they're like, oh, well, so-and-so says I can't do it. Well, if I listen to what some family member said to me, coming from Detroit, okay, they all knew I was going to come back to Detroit and not stay in New York. Well, I didn't listen to them. So, follow your dream. Go out there and do what you want to do, and you'll be surprised at what happens. And know that it can happen if you want it to.
Love it. Miss Natalie.
Yes, I really do echo everything that's been said. And, I think that there was a question about blocks. And I think it goes hand in hand when someone says, follow your heart, and you maybe imagine, what does that mean exactly for me? And I think that as anyone who wants to sort of go with the flow through life, but particularly as people who consider themselves creatives, it is your job to sort of keep your pipes open, if you will, unclogged. And I think that we do this through finding the fun, finding any little practice for yourself that feels like, oh, you know what that feels like when your blood's flowing and you feel like you're kind of in the zone. Sort of identify for yourself what that feels like and when it's happening. At the moment, I started a little free writing journal in the morning, and I'm finding that a little breathing and a little writing, just blabber, I don't care what it says, is helping me sort of find a new freshness in the morning. And I feel like that's a big part of my job, being prepared and open, to be curious, to be listening, and to be creating. And I think when we all come up against different times, our pipes get clogged with worry, or we get busy with something else, or we get an opportunity that we're really excited about. So all of a sudden we get extra scared about it, whatever our fears may be. And I think if you can create a routine for yourself that helps you connect with what Joe is saying, your gut instincts, and helps you kind of feel like you're going with the flow, then it'll help you make your choices of, oh, I'm getting an opportunity here and there. What truly feels more exciting right now? Trusting that if you follow the fun and what really excites you along your path, that you'll always end up going in the direction you're wanting to go. Even if you don't know how or when or why at that moment, you'll be moving in the direction you're wanting to go.
Great. No pressure, Jason. Last one.
Like everyone else. Thank you. That's it. But yeah, just to add on, I mean, if you love what you do, I mean, there's going to be stress in your life for sure. But no matter what you do, if you love it, you'll find ways to keep moving on, right? Everything every day, everything that you do, every time that you do it, you won't feel stressed. It'll be like an escape for you in some sense. Beyond that, I work in a technical field, so don't get too caught up with like what software I'm using, what piece of hardware I'm using. Those things are going to change. They always change. So don't be too bothered about it. Be bothered about your eyes, your ears, and your voice, because those things are what they hire you for. Because those are the internal talents that they want from you, not your skill set on using on the computer. So just keep that in mind.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, panelists, I can't thank you enough. And I would just say, I mean, we started out with an amazing synergy of watching the video, which just, I mean, I made that super late last night, but it just emitted amazing energy from all of you. And I think everybody watching probably feels the same way, just to hear, like, nobody here with the, I mean, maybe a couple of people have crossed paths a tiny bit, but these folks, nobody's really met each other. And yet they're all like, we would have the best dinner party ever. And everybody's, and you're all invited, by the way, not students, well, maybe students, but just to see you guys like agreeing and, you know, piggybacking off of each other in very different arts, but that we all speak the same language. It's a wonderful thing. And
I want to jump in, Charles. Charles is a great cook, so call him on that bluff. Amazing chef on top of everything else. So I know.
I would love it. So again, I will say thank you to all our panelists. This has just been exceeded. I knew it was going to be amazing, but this was just fantastic. So
This was fantastic. Thank you very much for asking.
And I hate that you can't see all the students, but if you could, right, they would all be screaming and waving their hands.
Good luck, Takaho. Hi, you got this.
Tuckahoe.
Go Tuckahoe.